You've got to be kidding me. 10 buses. 10. I woke up to the sound of diesel engines growling outside my window, coffee mug shaking in my hand as I realized hundreds of strangers were pouring through my front gate. They were trampling my garden, taking selfies with my scarecrow, acting like they'd bought tickets to some festival. And leading them was a woman in a blazing yellow vest marked HOA official, shouting orders like she owned the place. I bought this property precisely because it wasn't under any HOA, but that morning my life turned into a war zone. Through the window, I saw a flyer flapping against my gate, Maplewood Community Garden Tour, $25 per person. My address was printed right there, labeled as the Historic Maplewood Gardens Annex. My 5-acre non-HOA property suddenly turned into a tourist attraction without my consent. I threw on my jacket and stormed outside, trying to make sense of it. The first bus driver, a big guy named Jake, waved awkwardly and said, "Morning, sir. We're here for the garden tour." The lady in the yellow vest said it was cleared with the owner. That lady was already marching toward me. Karen Thompson, president of the Maplewood Estates HOA. Every stereotype made flesh. Bleached hair clipboard clutched like a weapon expression carved from pure arrogance. "You must be the new owner," she said. "I need you to open this gate immediately." I kept my voice steady. "Mrs. Thompson, I've owned this property for 3 years. Those buses need to leave." She waved me off. "Permit number 22847 grants us access to all green spaces within a 1-mile radius for beautification events. I've been HOA president for 8 years. I know my rights." I smiled tightly. "You might know your rights, but you clearly don't know their boundaries." Behind her, people were stepping off buses, snapping pictures of my greenhouse, chatting about the historic gardens. I looked at the flyers again, photos stolen straight from my backyard. My students had helped me plant those vegetables for our school's farm-to-table program, and now tourists were stomping through it for a fake heritage experience. Jake leaned toward me, whispering, "She's been running these tours for weeks, collecting thousands in ticket sales. Said you were just the caretaker refusing to cooperate." Caretaker. That word burned in my chest. "Mrs. Thompson," I said loudly, making sure my security cameras caught every word, "are you stating that you have legal authority to bring these people onto my property?" She smiled coldly. "I have all the authority I need. And if you don't open that gate, I'll file a complaint for obstructing a permitted event." That's when it clicked. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a scam. A calculated, well-oiled machine designed to intimidate, exploit, and profit. And somehow I'd become her next victim. Within days, the fallout began. My phone blew up with emails and posts from community boards calling me antisocial, unneighborly, even dangerous. Karen's people plastered my photo online with captions like, "Local teacher threatens seniors." The story twisted faster than I could correct it. At school, colleagues looked away. Parents whispered. I started questioning myself. Was I overreacting? Was I the crazy one? That doubt sat heavy for a few days until a knock on my door changed everything. Dorothy Harper, 73 years old, retired court clerk, sharp as a tack. She stepped into my kitchen like she'd been waiting years for this. "David," she said, "I've been watching that woman for a long time. You're not the first she's done this to, just the first who hasn't backed down." She laid a stack of files on my table, meeting minutes, court records, newspaper clippings. Karen had a history, families driven from their homes, fake nonprofits, falsified permits. "She hides behind the word community," Dorothy said, "but it's always about control and money." That was the moment something inside me shifted. I wasn't just defending my garden anymore, I was standing up to a predator. 3 days later, the second wave hit. 10 buses again this time, with banners, TV crews, and hundreds of people wearing shirts that said "Gardens for All." Karen had turned her scam into a movement. She marched at the front, megaphone in hand, shouting about equal access to community heritage. It would have been impressive if it weren't happening on my lawn. I hit record on my live stream. Thousands watched as Karen rallied her army outside my locked gate, her voice booming. "We're here to reclaim our history." Except it wasn't history, it was fraud. And this time I had receipts. When police arrived, I met them calmly, like I was back in my classroom explaining a lesson. "Officer," I said, "here's my deed, no easements, no shared access. No historic designation. Here's the contract she forged. Here's proof her so-called nonprofit doesn't exist. I read from her own paperwork listing times and dollar amounts. This woman collected over $20,000 selling tickets to private property she doesn't own. The crowd started to murmur. People looked at each other, realizing they'd been duped. One man shouted, "I want my money back." Another yelled, "You lied to us." Karen's face twitched, her authority cracking under the weight of evidence. But even cornered, she didn't back down. "Fine," she snapped. "We'll return with proper enforcement." She left in her white Lexus, but her words stuck with me like a threat. "You've made a powerful enemy today, Mr. Mitchell." The next morning, flyers covered every pole in town petitioned to designate 1247 Oakwood Drive as community green space. She wasn't just fighting me anymore, she was rewriting reality. Dorothy called it psychological warfare with clipboards. And she was right. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the security feed at Karen's posts, spinning new lies. For a moment, I almost gave in. I could sell the land, move away, let her win. But then I remembered my students, how I'd taught them to document, to stand up for facts when emotion clouded truth. If I quit now, I'd be proving her right. So I did what teachers do best, I prepared. By the time her so-called Heritage Festival rolled in at dawn, my property was wired like a courtroom exhibit. Cameras, timestamps, every inch documented. 10 buses arrived in formation. Karen stepped out like a general in a red power suit, megaphone in hand. "Good morning, neighbors," she shouted. "Welcome to the Maplewood Heritage Festival." Applause erupted. Then chaos. People testing fences, unloading tents and speakers, children running through my strawberry beds. She'd turned trespassing into a carnival. I called 911 again. The dispatcher sighed. "We've already had multiple calls, sir. Officers are on the way." When they arrived 40 minutes later, Karen was mid-speech about property elitism and democracy. The cameras loved her, but I was live too, streaming every lie, every contradiction. When Officer Brooks approached, I showed him my evidence. The deed, the fake permit, the bus contracts. I laid it out like a history lesson, chronological, factual, impossible to refute. Karen tried to interrupt. "This man is twisting the truth." Brooks held up a hand. "Ma'am, this is private property. Unless you have written permission." She thrust a crumpled paper at him. He examined it, then looked up. "Ma'am, this permit expired last year, and it's for the Maplewood Community Center, not this land." The crowd erupted. "She lied to us," someone screamed. Karen's smile froze. She tried to pivot, shouting about rich landowners hoarding nature, but the magic was gone. People were leaving muttering about refunds and lawyers. By the time police escorted her off my property, she was pale and shaking, but not defeated. Not yet. That night she came back, set up a protest camp on my land with tents, cars, even porta-potties. Claimed it was a peaceful occupation. That's when the teacher in me decided it was time for a different kind of lesson. The next morning I installed a heavy-duty steel gate at the entrance. Posted signs every 50 feet, private property. Gate closes at noon. Vehicles left inside will be considered abandoned. At 11:45 I announced over a megaphone 15 minutes to clear the driveway. Some laughed, filming TikToks. Karen shouted back, "You can't lock us in. That's false imprisonment." Perfect. On camera she just admitted she understood exactly what was happening. At noon sharp I closed the gate and chained it. The metallic clunk echoed like a gunshot. 3 news vans, 20 cars, a luxury RV, and 1 white Lexus all trapped on my property. Panic spread fast. Reporters called their offices. Drivers shouted. Karen marched up to the gate, fuming. "Open this now or I'll have you arrested." I stayed calm. "You're free to leave on foot, ma'am, but these vehicles are evidence in an active investigation." Her face drained of color. Her supporters turned on her. "You said this was legal," one yelled. Another added, "I'm missing work because of you." By the time Officer Brooks returned, the scene was chaos. Karen surrounded by furious followers, the press filming every second. "Mr. Mitchell," Brooks said, half smiling, "what exactly am I walking into?" I handed him my paperwork. Securing abandoned vehicles on private land. Case law supports it. He flipped through the pages, nodded slowly. "Legally sound," he admitted, "though I've never seen anyone actually do it." For 3 hours the standoff boiled. Karen's army crumbled, her volunteers begging to be released. Finally she cracked. Her voice hoarse, her hair disheveled, she shoved her clipboard toward me. "Fine, give me the papers." She signed every page admitting trespass, agreeing to repay the ticket buyers, promising never to return. Each signature another nail in her empire's coffin. When the gate opened at 5, the exodus was silent. No chanting, no cameras, just exhaustion and shame. Karen's Escalade was the last to roll out. She stopped beside me, eyes bloodshot. "This isn't over." "You're right," I said. "The investigation is just beginning." And it was. Within a week, state and federal agents raided her HOA office, uncovering years of embezzlement, shell companies, and fake nonprofits. $450,000 gone spent on vacations and consulting fees. She was arrested on 15 counts of fraud and embezzlement. The same woman who had threatened to ruin my career now faced federal prison. As they led her away in handcuffs, I felt no triumph, just a deep, quiet relief. The garden was ruined, the fences broken, but the truth had finally taken root. Some lessons, I realized, come from the worst teachers. And Karen Thompson taught an entire community exactly what happens when power goes unchecked.